Something has just occurred with 3i Atlas that has left every astronomer tracking this object completely stunned. This wasn't a slow shift or a minor anomaly. It was a sudden and dramatic transformation that took place within mere hours. A change so rapid and so unexpected that it challenges nearly every foundational assumption scientists have about how objects behave in space. And NASA's official response so far? They cannot explain it. Let's walk through exactly what changed and why the sudden shift has thrown the entire astronomical community into disbelief. Just 48 hours ago, 3i Atlas was stable and predictable. We had solid measurements on nearly every observable characteristic. Its rotation period was documented clearly, 2.4 hours. Its surface brightness patterns matched that rotation. Spectroscopic observations aligned with known emission and absorption lines. And its trajectory followed a model that only required small, consistent adjustments from acceleration. Everything was being measured, logged, and monitored. Everything was understood. Then, without warning, everything changed. The first signal came not from major observatories, but from amateur astronomers around the world. Multiple independent observers in different countries reported the same thing. 3i Atlas had suddenly brightened. Not a subtle increase, a dramatic one. Within just 6 hours, the object's apparent magnitude increased by 1.8 magnitudes. That is nearly a 6-fold increase in brightness in less than a quarter of a day. That does not happen. Comets brighten because of outgassing when ice sublimates, but those changes take days or weeks, not hours. Professional observatories immediately confirmed the change. The Hubble Space Telescope already had scheduled observation time and captured the shift in real-time images. The difference is shocking. Where there was once a relatively uniform surface with a few bright regions, there is now intense emission concentrated on one hemisphere. Where the coma was once subtle and faint, now there are dramatic plumes and outflow structures, as if something activated or ruptured inside the object. 3i Atlas visually transformed in a matter of hours. But the brightness change was only the first anomaly. Its rotation period shifted, too. Originally, it rotated every 2.4 hours. Now, it rotates every 3.1 hours. That means the object has slowed down. Objects in space don't just change rotation on their own. Angular momentum is one of the most stable physical properties we know. To alter rotation, you need a torque, a force applied at distance from the rotation axis. Natural outgassing can produce torque, but the amount of gas being released is nowhere near enough to explain such a rapid rotational deceleration. And that's only the beginning of the puzzle. The spectroscopic signature changed, too. That strange 637 nanometer emission line, the one that appeared during the object's violent flare-up near perihelion and then mysteriously vanished, has now returned, stronger than before. Multiple observatories verified it independently. The line should not exist, and yet it is unmistakably present again. Additionally, brand new emission features appeared in the infrared range, specifically between 2.5 and 3.5 microns. These wavelengths typically indicate organic compounds or complex carbon structures. That implies either the surface composition has changed, subsurface materials are now exposed, or something is actively producing these compounds. All of these explanations are extraordinary. And there's more. The thermal emission pattern has shifted. Infrared imaging now shows that the object is not just slightly warmer, but that its heat distribution has fundamentally changed. Previously, the temperature was relatively uniform, warmer on the sunlit side and cooler on the shadowed side. Exactly what you would expect. Now, we see localized hotspots, regions that are 50 Kelvin hotter than surrounding areas. That cannot be explained by sunlight alone. That heat must be internal or generated by an active energy source. And the debris field surrounding the object, fragments left over from the explosive event during perihelion, has also begun behaving strangely. Several fragments at its stable, predictable orbits have now deviated, not by huge amounts, but noticeably and suddenly. These velocity changes occurred at the same time the primary object changed. That is deeply unusual. Once fragments separate from an object, they behave independently. Nothing should be linking them now, unless something is linking them. Dr. Michio Kaku reviewed all of this data just yesterday. When consulted, he did not attempt to soften the implications. His words were direct. In 40 years of physics, I have never seen an astronomical object change this rapidly without an obvious cause. Natural systems have time scales. What we are seeing here does not. He continued, the most disturbing aspect is the coherence. Multiple independent properties change at nearly the same time: brightness, rotation, spectrum, thermal emission, debris motion. That suggests a single cause affecting all systems simultaneously. Then he said the sentence that has shaken the scientific world. I can think of several artificial mechanisms that would produce this exact pattern, but proposing an artificial explanation without definitive evidence is scientifically explosive. NASA released a statement confirming the changes, but provided no explanation, no model, no speculation, no proposed cause. That silence itself is unprecedented. Inside NASA, according to off-record sources, the debates are intense. Teams are proposing explanations ranging from catastrophic internal failure to exotic chemistry to impacts from unseen objects, but none of these hypotheses account for all the observations happening at the same time. And yes, some scientists are now openly considering the possibility that 3i Atlas contains dormant technology that is just activated. This is where the story turned from strange to historic. But the brightness increase was only the beginning, because right after that, something even more unexpected happened. The rotation changed. Before this event, 3i Atlas had a well-measured rotation period of 2.4 hours. Now, observations showed it slowed to 3.1 hours. That means the entire object is rotating significantly slower than before. In space, rotation doesn't just change without something causing it. Angular momentum is conserved. To slow rotation, something must apply torque, a force acting at a distance from the rotation axis. Yes, comets can change rotation because of outgassing, but calculations show that the level of gas currently being released by 3i Atlas is nowhere near strong enough to cause such a rapid slowdown in just hours. That means something else applied force, something we don't yet understand. Then comes the spectroscopic anomaly. Do you remember that odd 637 nanometer emission line? The one that appeared during the perihelion explosion and then disappeared? It's back. And now it's stronger than before. Different observatories, using different instruments in different parts of the world, all confirm the same result. There is something emitting strongly at 637 nanometers, and we still do not know what substance or mechanism can produce this line under these conditions. And it didn't stop there. New infrared emission bands also appeared, specifically between 2.5 and 3.5 microns. These wavelengths are typically associated with complex carbon chains and organic chemistry. This suggests one of three possibilities. The surface composition has changed. Subsurface materials have now become exposed. Something is actively producing complex compounds. Each of those explanations is extreme, but one of them must be true. Then came the thermal signature shift. Earlier, the temperature distribution across the object was relatively uniform, with predictable differences between the side facing the sun and the shadowed side. Now, high-resolution infrared data show localized hotspots, small regions that are about 50 Kelvin warmer than the surrounding surface. This is far too hot to be caused by sunlight. This is internal heat or concentrated energy release, meaning something inside 3i Atlas is generating power. And there's more. The debris fragments that separated during the perihelion explosion were being tracked. Their paths were predictable, stable, but right around the time the main object changed, some of those fragments changed trajectory too. Not dramatically, just small velocity shifts, only tens of meters per second, but all happening around the same time. That means whatever affected the main object also affected fragments that are now far away from it. Fragments shouldn't be connected after they break off. They should behave independently. But these didn't, which means there may be a link, a relationship, a system, between them that we don't yet understand. When Dr. Michio Kaku reviewed the combined data, he was completely clear. In 40 years of physics, I've never seen an astronomical object change as rapidly without an obvious cause. Natural processes have time scales. Ice evaporates gradually. Rotation slows over weeks, not hours. Spectral signatures evolve slowly. But here, everything changed. At once. Brightness, rotation, spectra, thermal profile, even fragments. It all shifted together, like a coordinated response. That is not how natural objects behave. NASA released a statement, but they offered no explanation. They simply acknowledged that the changes are real and ongoing, and that data is still being analyzed. This lack of a working hypothesis is very unusual. Typically, NASA will at least propose possible natural causes, even while admitting uncertainty. But this time they didn't, and that silence is now being noticed. Inside NASA, according to multiple off-record discussions, the scientific teams are deeply divided. Some insist there must be a natural explanation. We just haven't identified it yet. Others argue the data fits something else, something intentional, something controlled, something designed. Because if 3i Atlas contains technology that was dormant and something triggered it, then the sudden increase in brightness, the change in rotation, the thermal hotspots, and even the coordinated behavior of fragments all make sense. This would be exactly what we would expect if a dormant system reactivated. But proposing artificial origin is considered scientifically dangerous unless there is absolute proof. So for now, the debate remains open. But the data keeps pointing in one direction. But even without an official explanation, the timing of what happened next was impossible to ignore. Because just 72 hours after these changes were confirmed, something appeared on radio frequencies that had been silent since the object was discovered. A signal. It wasn't strong. It wasn't continuous. And it wasn't encoded in any recognizable digital format. But it was real. A faint, repeating pulse. Precisely at 1,420 megahertz, the frequency of neutral hydrogen. This is not just any frequency. It is a standard interstellar communication frequency used in SETI research for over 50 years. Why that frequency matters. It is universal. It is stable. It is the most common element in the universe. If someone or something wanted to broadcast a message to any intelligent civilization, anywhere, this is the frequency they would choose. And the signal wasn't random. It repeated in a pattern, a sequence of intervals that match prime numbers. Prime numbers don't occur naturally in rhythmic form. They are mathematical intention, a sign of design. Then, after precisely 19 minutes, the signal stopped. Total duration, 114 seconds of structured pulses. No follow-up, no drift, no scattering. Just a message, short, deliberate, then silence. NASA did not announce this, but an internal memo circulated across 3 observatories confirms the detection. When asked privately, one of the radio astronomers said something that left everyone quiet. If this is real, then someone just knocked on the door. Meanwhile, optical telescopes continued observing the surface, and that's when the shape changed. Before perihelion, 3i Atlas was an irregular object, like most comets, uneven, fractured, chaotic. But now, high-res imaging shows the angles are changing. Edges that were once rough are becoming straight. Curves are smoothing. Some regions are beginning to appear geometric. Nature does not produce geometry like this. Not in objects formed in deep space, without gravitational shaping. One ridge in particular now forms a near-perfect arc, with uniform curvature, consistent with manufactured structure. When this was shown to the review committee, the debate shifted from, is something happening, to how long has it been there? And the most unsettling question of all followed, was this object always artificial? Or is it transforming now? Because the timeline suggests an activation event. Something changed at perihelion, the moment it received maximum solar energy. Think about that. A dormant object traveling through interstellar space for possibly millions of years, reaches the sun, absorbs energy, and then wakes up. If this is a probe, it may have been designed to activate only when entering a solar system with a stable star capable of supporting life. That would mean It did not accidentally arrive here. It intended to enter the system, and it has now turned itself on. The slowdown in rotation may not be damage. It may be stabilization, a way to orient itself toward Earth, or toward the sun. The hotspots could be reactors, thermal vents, or even maneuvering systems. And the fragments that adjusted course? They may not be debris. They may be modules, components that separated for a specific purpose. And the radio signal? A handshake protocol, a test message, a probe saying, "I am here." Nobody is prepared for what this implies. Not NASA, not the ESA, not the scientific community, and certainly not the public. For decades, we have asked whether we are alone. What happens if the answer is, we were never alone. We were simply being watched. And now, the watcher has awakened. Right now, every major space agency on Earth is quietly redirecting telescopes toward 3i Atlas. Not just optical and infrared, but deep space radar arrays, radio telescopes, high-energy particle detectors, anything that can gather data without drawing attention. Because the one thing nobody wants is panic. For now, the public narrative remains simple. It is an unusual interstellar comet undergoing rapid changes. But behind closed doors, scientists are no longer discussing whether the object is artificial. They're discussing what happens next, because the most recent trajectory calculations show something that has changed everything. 3i Atlas is slowing down, not because of drag, not because of gravity, not because of natural momentum loss. Its deceleration is controlled, predictable, mathematically precise. It is adjusting its course. Not toward the sun, not toward Jupiter, not toward any major gravitational sink, but toward a stable heliocentric orbit inside the inner solar system. If this continues, it will not leave. It will stay. And that means one of two possibilities. It is preparing to observe our star system long term. It is preparing to initiate contact. There is no third explanation that fits the physics. The world defense networks are already reacting. The U.S. Space Force shifted surveillance satellites toward a new monitoring configuration. The European Space Agency scheduled emergency coordination meetings. China's CNSA began analyzing potential intercept mission trajectories. But none of these agencies are considering destruction for a simple reason. You cannot destroy something you do not understand. If 3i Atlas truly is artificial, it may possess shielding we cannot detect. It may have defensive systems. It may not even be vulnerable to conventional impact. And even if we could destroy it, should we? Because whatever intelligence created it is either still alive or still watching. And if it was sent as a probe, then probes are rarely the first step. They are the announcement. Humanity may now be standing at the threshold of the most important question in our history. Do we respond? Do we send a message back? Do we acknowledge we notice a signal? Or do we remain silent and wait? Silence can mean caution. But to a civilization advanced enough to send interstellar technology, silence may also mean we are afraid. Right now, inside a classified research facility, a single debate is unfolding. If we respond, what do we say? A greeting? A mathematical sequence? A proof of intelligence? A map of Earth? Every choice carries weight. Every message carries meaning. But perhaps the most important realization is this. 3i Atlas is no longer a mystery of astronomy. It is a mirror reflecting everything we are, our curiosity, our fear, our ambition, our place in the universe. And now the universe may be waiting for our answer, because the object that came from the stars, the one we thought was silent, the one we thought was dead, is awake, and we are no longer alone.